$14.22. That's what the dividend notification reads on a rainy Tuesday morning in November. You are 24 years old. You stare at the screen for a long time. $14. Paid to you for owning something. Not for sitting in a cubicle, not for answering an email, not for trading an hour of your life. For owning. The coffee on your desk is cold. The mattress you're sitting on was bought off Facebook Marketplace from a guy who threw in the bed frame for free. You read the number again? You don't text your friends. You don't post it on Instagram. Because the first rule of passive income is this: it is not a number. It is a divorce from time. Right now, at $0 a month, you are entirely trapped in the salary. Every dollar you have is a dollar you traded an hour for. Your rent is $1,300. Your car payment is $410. Your student loan minimum is $285. You move through the month like someone walking across a frozen lake, constantly listening for the ice to crack. A guy in accounting named Marcus mentions index funds at lunch. He says it quietly, like he's sharing a state secret. You nod. You don't tell him you've already read the books. You just tell him you'll look into it. That night, you open the brokerage app for the 10th time. You transfer $250. You feel absolutely nothing. And yet, you feel everything. The shift has begun. You stop thinking in paychecks. You start thinking in shares. At $45 a month, the passive income is still a joke. It arrives in awkward, random fragments. $4.12 on the 12th, $8.50 on the 28th. You don't set it to automatically reinvest. You want to see it hit your cash balance. You want to watch it. The numbers feel like physical proof of a secret you are keeping from the world. You start packing your lunch. Not because you're broke, but because you are redirecting capital. The $110 a week you used to spend on DoorDash becomes $440 a month, flowing directly into the account. You don't tell your girlfriend. You tell yourself you'll explain it later, when there is actually something to explain. The second rule: the first dollar of passive income is the loudest. After that, the noise fades and the math takes over. At $350 a month, you start to understand the geometry of freedom. $350 is the electric bill. $350 is half the groceries. The portfolio crosses 6 figures on a random Wednesday in March, and you do not feel rich. You feel watched by yourself. You start checking the balance at 11:43 a.m. You check it again at 11:44 a.m. Marcus gets promoted to manager. You do not. He makes $16,000 more than you now. You open your spreadsheet. The spreadsheet says that if you maintain a 45% savings rate, you cross $250,000 in 4 years and 3 months. You close the laptop. You open it again at 2 a.m. You start saying no to things. A bachelor party in Austin. A friend's destination wedding in Cabo. You tell people the dates don't work. The dates work perfectly. You sit at home on a Saturday night, reading a $5 paperback on asset allocation. The author has been dead for 20 years. You highlight a sentence about the difference between price and value. You don't know yet that you will forget it and remember it 3 more times over the next decade. You stop measuring your life in years. You start measuring it in basis points. At $1,400 a month, the rent is paid by the portfolio. Not literally, you still pay it from your paycheck, but on paper, in the quiet logic of your spreadsheet, the dividends cover the apartment. You tell no one, but you start sleeping differently. Not better, differently. The low-level background hum of financial anxiety loosens its grip by maybe 5%. You notice it the morning your boss schedules a quick sync, and you don't immediately panic about your bank balance. You just think about the work. You meet a woman named Elena at a mutual friend's dinner. She's an architect. She asks what you do. You give your job title. She nods. Later, she asks where you see yourself in 10 years. You almost tell her the truth. You almost say, "I am building a silent machine that will eventually pay me to exist." Instead, you say something generic about wanting to travel more. She smiles. You smile. You go home and transfer $900 into the account. The third rule: the middle of the climb is the loneliest part. The bottom has company, the top has staff, the middle has only the math. At $4,500 a month, the air around you changes. The portfolio is approaching 7 figures. You are 33. You have a corporate salary of $155,000 and a quiet side LLC doing $35,000 a year. The passive income now covers rent, utilities, groceries, and the payment on a used Volvo you bought in cash. You quietly stop applying for promotions. You take a lateral move to a different department that pays $5,000 less, but guarantees you log off at 5 p.m. Your manager, a sharp woman named Sarah, asks if you're feeling burnt out. You tell her you're just recalibrating. She doesn't believe you. You don't blame her. You find yourself in the kitchen at 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, eating a bowl of rice with soy sauce, and you realize you haven't thought about money in 6 hours. The relief is so quiet, you almost miss it. You put the bowl in the sink, you sleep 8 hours for the first time in 2 years. At $12,000 a month, the math has crossed a line your friends cannot see. You don't bring it up. The portfolio sits at $2.9 million, mostly boring index funds, a small position in a private credit fund, a paid-off duplex that throws off $2,400 a month. The dividends alone are $105,000 a year. You still work. But the work is different now. The work is no longer the floor, it's just the ceiling. You catch yourself in meetings noticing things you used to miss, the way the VP shifts in his chair when margins are mentioned, the way Marcus, now a director, laughs slightly too loud at the CEO's jokes. You see the corporate game from a slight distance, not from above, just adjacent. An old college friend named David calls you. His roof caved in. He needs $20,000. You wire him $25,000 within the hour and tell him to keep the change. He cries on the phone. You feel something you don't have a word for, not pride, not pity, something colder and warmer at the same time. You hang up. The portfolio doesn't even notice the $25,000, but you notice that it doesn't notice. The fourth rule, wealth doesn't change who you are. It removes the friction that was hiding who you are. At $28,000 a month, you stop having a traditional job. You become a consultant. You bill 3 clients. You work 15 hours a week. The portfolio crosses $5.5 million. You buy a house in cash, not a mansion. A modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet town where nobody knows what you do. Your neighbors think you work in IT. You let them think it. You drive a 6-year-old car. You begin to notice the texture of free time. It is heavier than the magazines promised. The mornings are long. You take up running. You start writing in a black notebook. You write things like, the cost of optionality is the loss of urgency. You write, the room got smaller when I stopped needing it. At $60,000 a month, the abstraction sets in. The portfolio is $12 million. You are 42. The income comes from 3 sources you barely touch. A managed equity portfolio, 2 real estate syndications, and a small private fund. You receive a K-1 tax form in the mail and have to ask your accountant what it means. He explains it slowly. You nod. You realize, with a small, flat shock, that you no longer need to understand how the money is made. The money is making the money. Your only job is to not interfere. You see your old co-workers on LinkedIn. Marcus is a VP now. Sarah retired. David, the friend who needed the roof money, runs a small landscaping business and has 2 kids. You send him a Christmas card every year. He sends one back. You haven't seen him in person in 8 years. The cards are the only physical evidence the friendship still exists. The 5th rule, at a certain altitude, your relationships become artifacts. You preserve them. You do not live inside them. At $1.2 million a year, the air is thin in a way that is hard to describe to anyone who hasn't been there. The income arrives in massive quarterly lumps, distributions that are larger than your father's lifetime earnings. You no longer check the balance. You have a wealth manager who checks it. She sends you a 1-page PDF on the first Monday of each month. That PDF is the only document you read about your money. You spend more time choosing a bottle of wine than you spend on your finances. You sit on your back porch in late October. The house is quiet. Elena, now your wife, is inside reading. Your daughter is asleep upstairs. You hold a glass of red wine. You don't think about money. You haven't really thought about it in months. Instead, your mind drifts back to a rainy Tuesday morning when you were 24. You think about a phone screen lighting up in the dark, a deposit of $14.22. You think about the version of yourself who stared at that number for a long time, the version who didn't tell anyone, the version who didn't know yet what the math would do, the version who was, in some way you can never fully recover, more alive than you are right now. You don't regret it. You are not sentimental enough to regret it. You simply notice the distance. The 6th rule, the machine does not arrive. It accrues. And by the time you can name it, it has already finished building you. Somewhere, on a Tuesday morning, in a cheap apartment with a cold cup of coffee, a 24-year-old opens a brokerage app for the first time. The deposit reads $8.50. He stares at it. He doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't know what he's starting. He only knows that, for the first time in his life, $1 arrived without a clock attached to it. It always starts there. It always will.